When I talk about this self-sabotage, I'm talking about the idea that you said that you're afraid to be happy almost.
Yeah.
You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think happiness is comfort, and comfort is like the end of growth, right? Like if you're happy with your relationships, are you seeking better ones? Like if you're happy with where you're at numbers wise, are you seeking better numbers? Are you seeking a larger audience? You know what I mean? So I think that self sabotage in terms of things is sometimes like I'm willing to burn it all down to see how quickly I can rebuild it.
This is Sad Boy Radio.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sad Boy Radio. I'm your host, Matt, and today we got a very special guest in the building. Man, we came out to LA and interviewed a bunch of East Coast people. Kind of ironic, but it is what it is. Straight from Virginia. He's got 267.8 thousand monthly listeners on Spotify. And, you could be a little self-destructive, but it be like that. Go ahead and introduce yourself, bro.
What's good? My name is Mynameisntjmack. I'm a rapper from Yorktown, Newport News, Virginia. I've been making music for about like 7-8 years. I tell people I've only been taking this seriously for about like the past 3. I try to not focus on like the numbers and stuff like that in terms of like vanity metrics, like looking at like monthly listeners and stuff like that. So I'm always surprised at like the amount, you know what I mean? Because I'm like trying to figure out how the music moves with people in terms of like how are they really resonating with it? Does it stick with them?
Why do you feel like you need to move away from those vanity metrics, though? I mean, I understand, right, to a point, they don't matter because you don't necessarily, like, it's just a number. Numbers don't really matter, but when you look back and you look at everything you've done, sometimes that number is just like, damn, like this many people care about what I'm doing.
I love that we starting off this way. People don't know that we had a whole ass like conversation about this type of stuff beforehand. I feel a type of way about those metrics just because I'm a very anxious person, like a very like manically anxious and depressive person. So those numbers like rise and fall on an hourly, if not daily basis. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where I would find my mental state coming and going with the amount of monthly listeners that I had. And then it took people around me who knew a little bit more and took the time to show me that that stuff changes on a daily basis. And you can really see how you're building a true audience and a true fan base through other type of metrics. And it's cool to post about how well you're doing and, always grateful for the support when people see it and like reach out. But there's other ways to determine how the business is moving and such.
What have you found to be good substitutes in seeing how the business is moving?
Really seeing how the music sticks with people. So like looking at how many people are like saving the music, how many people follow you versus how many people are like listening on a monthly basis. Like how many people took the time to click that button and say, yo, I want to be tapped into what he's doing. Like I want to be updated. You know what I mean? And stuff of that nature as opposed to stuff that could change based off of like a passive playlist that you're on or somebody reposting your song and it gets a spike for the day. Like those aren't the things that define you. The things that define you are how the music resonates with people and how long it sits with them.
So why not value followers, right? Because Instagram followers is another thing that you would consider a vanity metric. A follower is somebody that's trying to, stay updated on what you got going on, whether that be personally or musically.
I would say that it varies by platform. You know what I mean? Because with Instagram followers, I think it's a lot of people, especially as algorithms and platforms change. It's like, what does a blue check mean now versus 4 or 5 years ago? Today, it means something completely different. So what does a certain amount of followers mean now? Because you can have 20,000. Everybody sees it on a daily basis. It's like, brother, the math not adding up. How you have 25,000 Instagram followers and 5,000 monthly listeners, and why are 20,000 more people following you, and for what? Like, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things where based off the platform, I think there's different things that you should focus on. But I'm not saying Instagram followers don't matter, but I think that it's matters to whom, it matters for what reason, it matters for how long.
No, I feel you. I mean, I play that game every day, right? I got to figure out who's doing what and what they're doing and how much people actually value it, because you could have 200,000 followers, but me and this guy are going to sit there and be like, how the fuck you got 200,000 followers and you got 10 likes on your post? The math's not mathing.
Exactly. So it's one of those things where I think that we live in a perception based society and in an attention based society. So people kind of value that. And if the perceived amount of attention is there, people will value that and therefore value you. So I try to just look at the things that move people daily. Hopefully, I hope that songs still get streamed 2-3 years after they get released. I hope new people are finding songs 2-3 years after the release and stuff like that. Because it's really at the end of the day all about the music and how it sits with people.
What do you think you do that make sure that people are still discovering that old music and making sure that it remains timeless?
I think that's like a two-pronged question, because making sure that people still revisit it and still discover it, I think that it's important. I think Tyler, the creator, touched on this in an interview with Converse. It's like showing love to the things that you took time on and time with. And I try to teach myself this and tell myself this every day is like, bro, you took a year and a half to make this project. Like, how are you not taking a year and a half just talking about this? Or like taking its due time to promote it in ways that are unique to it and special to it and can continue to help people resonate with it. And then in terms of how do I make sure the music sticks with people, I think that that's just being vulnerable. You know what I mean? Because being myself, I think that being somebody else, like you're never sure how many people resonate with said image. Like I can only be myself and hope that there's other people out there like me that are experiencing some of the similar things and resonate with it. And regardless of who that is, I hope that it sticks with them.
Man, we're definitely going to touch on that. There's a lot of concepts that you have throughout your music that I think are important to talk about, not only just between us, but overall as a conversation, right? A lot of people go through certain things and they feel alone in this journey, this thing that we call life, because they have nowhere to turn to. They're just going through it alone and think that it can almost feel daunting and be like, oh my gosh, I'm the only person going through this.
Exactly.
Before we get into all of that, we have to touch on the fact that, right, you came from Virginia all the way to LA.
Yeah.
That's a huge leap. That's a huge
100%.
jump. What do you think made it so essential to your journey and to your career to be out here?
I tell people all the time, if you're trying to sell boats, you go where the water's at. You're not going to sell boats in Chicago, for example, unless you're on a lake. So I just believe there's more resources out here in terms of people trying to do the thing, right? Photographers, videographers, studio engineers, studios in general, other people trying to make connections and do the same thing. So it's like LA is a place I think is a different beast as a whole. But if you're talking about it in terms of doing business, the business is here. So I felt like when I was in Virginia, I was trying to perform a lot, and there were a lot of very talented people who were comfortable performing at the same venues year after year with the same people for the same crowd, and more power to them. Like, they're insanely talented. They were probably more talented than me at a point to be able to lock down a spot in the 7-5 and continue to perform at it year after year. But at the end of the day, like, I want to be global. I want to like have the music stick and last after a long time, and people talk about it long after I'm gone. So that was just kind of where I felt like I was at, and that kind of precipitated the move out here. But also, I had gone through so much in Virginia that I felt like I needed to leave, and leaving helped me rediscover how much I know that I want to die there. Like, I love it in Virginia.
I think that both those answers are amazing, because the example that you use, you want to be global. You want to be bigger than just that section. And I think a lot of creatives get comfortable with being locally famous. We say that a lot in Chicago too, right? A lot of people get this idea of, I'm okay with being local, and people just hearing it at that, and all power to them. But they think that Chicago is the world. To spread your word past that local level, to spread your word across the globe, I think that that's what matters the most, because now you're going to be impacting 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times the size of wherever you may be from.
Yeah, and honestly, I try to go about the nature of the conversation without disparaging, where I'm from, because at the end of the day, like, I don't know what it's like to be the man in Chicago. You know what I mean? I barely know what it's like to be the man in Yorktown, Virginia. So I can't speak on, like, maybe had I been or had the word spread around enough in Virginia Beach or some of the surrounding areas and I was the man there, maybe that would have been enough for me, but I kind of had to seek and receive that love elsewhere in terms of the music, just because I wasn't necessarily even making like regional music, it's like much respect to the area. Like Clips is like Clips, Pharrell, Push it, like Pharrell and Pusha T, Malice, like Missy Elliott, Timbaland, like you don't go about the area lightly. You know what I mean? So I speak about it with a lot of respect. But at the end of the day, like I had to seek my shit elsewhere.
What do you feel like you needed to get away from over in Virginia?
Stupid decisions. I have too much respect for my parents to say that they put me in a position to be in a sort of environment to where I like had to go through the things that I went through in terms of what I did. I think that just through my own decisions, people I chose to surround myself with and how I was feeling about myself at the time kind of led me to fuck up in numerous ways. And it wasn't until I had somebody else who was willing to take the music serious with me that I was able to, take myself seriously.
With your dad being in the military, I'm sure he had an ideal life for you. He had expectations of what he wanted it to be. How did he take to music being the path you chose?
I love that question just because that's something that me and my father work through every day. Still to this day, I talk to my father every day. Mainly now because he was the dad that when he grew up on basketball and his son wanted to play baseball, he took the time to understand the rules of the game so he could cheer at the game and understand what's going on. So 25 years later, when his son had been through rehab and dropped out of school and been arrested on and off probation, and said, "Hey, I'm making music and I want to move to LA." He's been taking the time to learn about the music. So, I love my father more than anything. And that type of rigid lifestyle kind of informs how I like to treat people, like a certain level of respect, like how I move and how I operate, like on the day to day. So I'm grateful for it. But at the same time, like it definitely created an environment that as a kid definitely pushed me towards like rebelling and doing certain things. But, it's all growth and understanding. And, who are we if not our family?
Because they have the strongest influence on you. They have the strongest impact on you. I think that I say this a lot, that when people create certain expectations of you and they place that on you and it's forced on you, you don't want to be that. But it's also hard when people are consistently telling you that you're not something.
I always felt like people were supporting me, like telling me I was a smart kid. And I hate this argument. Like I was a smart kid and now I'm misunderstood. Nah, I hate that shit. But it's like I felt like people definitely supported me. And then I felt like I blew opportunities or I got to a certain level and felt like I wasn't good enough to achieve or like seek out certain things. You know, I was afraid to like leave college and get a job because I felt like I couldn't sustain as an adult and I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
And it had already been coupled with like a spiraling drug use problem. So then it leads to like, okay, cool. Now I got to drop out. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to keep doing music. And then when the time came to go back, it was like, I want to keep doing music. And it's just progressively been trying to build myself up as a human to be able to like do what I want to do passionately.
So then let's hop into it, man. Right. Your last project, Book Market, talks a lot about different concepts that you faced throughout your life. One of the most important being anxiety.
Yeah.
What role has anxiety played in your life?
That's a deep question just because it's like it pops up on the daily basis. And every day I'm thinking back in terms of like, why did I act that way in that situation? Like, probably because I was anxious, you know what I mean? But I think anxiety is just excitement with a different face sometimes. Like, am I anxious before a show or am I excited to do what I love? am I anxious before I got to go into this day job, or am I excited to get it over with so I can go and do what I want to do? You know, it's like trying to decipher what that is. It's a battle every day, but I think the anxiety in the long term is, you know, contributed to failed relationships, uh, and just fucking up in general, like not trusting people that I should have trusted.
That's a unique way of looking at it. That it can be excitement to get this job over with.
Yeah.
What made you come up with it? What made you start to flip it in that way?
After a show, I had somebody come up, and it was a coworker actually, and they looked at me and they were like, "Yo, I get it now." And I had only known them for like 4 or 5 months, and they had just like heard about the show through some other people at the job that I was closer with, and were like, "Oh, I'm gonna pop out," and they see me smiling and they were like, "Yo, I get it now." And they're like, "What?" I was like, "I get why you be so pissed off at work." It's like, cause you're probably meant to do this in terms of like be on stage and do the thing. And it kind of put it in perspective to me in terms of like, damn, like I'm so anxious before these things, but as they're going on and afterwards, like I'm so in the moment and I feel it and I'm happy. And I don't even realize it until someone took the time to be like, "Yo, this feels like what you should be doing." And it's also because they had seen me in my day to day doing distinctly to this day what I should not be doing.
Working a day job.
Working a day job.
Now, another thing that anxiety has brought on is anxiety brought on a constant use for Xans since you were 15, 16 years old.
Yeah, for sure.
What effects did you start to notice in yourself due to the long-term use?
I feel like I have a pretty solid long-term memory, but like my short-term memory fucks with me every day. But like, is that the Xanax? Is that the weed usage? Who knows? I feel like at the end of the day, like Xans in the long term fucked with my anxiety in terms of like, damn, it's harder to deal with like the panic attacks that come because like it's meant to like help reduce those. At least that's what it was for me. I know it's prescribed for different reasons, but for me it was to like kill the panic attacks and such. So now that I don't have it or I'm trying to be sober. It makes those moments like heightened, just a little bit harder to deal with.
So why move away from it if you see the effects that it's having now that you're not on it?
Because I think that, you know, I'm an addict, so just overuse, over medicate. How much is too much, you know? And I got things that I care about now. I could say that music has definitely helped to that degree in the sense of like, I didn't have as much to care about 2 years ago or, you know, a year ago. So every day is like just trying to make sure that I preserve what I got going. Cause it's like, what do I look like if I fuck up and I have a producer who took the chance to have me come out here and like stay on his couch, be able to make music, the homie John. I have a manager who reached out to me off of the strength of just seeing the music on the timeline. And he's contributed personal funds to be able to make sure this shit works without ever asking a cent from me when I was still living in my mom's house. Like, there's producers who have sent me beats and said, "Bro, just give me a split. I don't need anything up front so you can get this song out because I believe in it." What do I look like if I fuck up and don't at least try my hardest for them, you know? So it's a struggle day to day, but at the end of the day, I'd like to think that I work my hardest to keep shit going for everybody.
And being self-aware that this ball doesn't roll without you. You know, when we had our conversation with Asar, he had mentioned, like, I have a team behind me, and this team believes in what I do just as much as I do. And I know that, and I understand that if I were to stop or if something were to fail, that, you know, not that they're not doing something, but they're also depending on me to make it just as much as I am myself. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the anxiety part, do you feel like there was ever a point where anxiety just completely ruled your life?
For sure. For sure. Both in times like before I took the music seriously, while taking the music seriously. Still to this day, you know what I mean? It's a day-to-day struggle. I don't have advice for anybody. I'm just somebody else going through it. You know what I mean? So
It's rough out here.
it's so rough out here. God damn it. But yeah, I would say that times in which anxiety has ruled my life is definitely when I focus in terms of making music in the past like 2-3 years has been like focusing on the numbers and such. Like when we first did like the deal with Genius and such and putting out music through them and seeing like the open mic do a little bit of numbers and seeing videos put out through them do a little bit of numbers, I looked at the scope of it all and was terrified, because I was worried about that aspect of perception and like how many of these people really get what I'm saying in these lyrics? How many of these people perceive me as X versus Y versus Z? So, and it's really easy to be like, man, fuck them. I don't care how they see me. But at the end of the day, like I'm somebody that I feel like put so much of myself into the music that seeing the scope of it all was just like, damn, how many of these people see what I put into it?
Mm-hmm.
And how many of them feel like they saw it and are just dead ass wrong?
Mm-hmm.
So I still think about that every day.
That's a crazy hyperfixation. And I get that it's from the anxiety. I just never thought of it like that. I think that when I start, not to make it about me, but when I started this, people would ask me, they're like, how do you just like tell these stories and throw it out there and not get nervous? I'm like, bro, because at the end of the day, like I understand somebody else is going through it. And, it's my story. Who cares what other people think about my story? And it's kind of like you were saying, it's like you could say who cares, but there's also the other side that this is how people are going to see me. And this is, maybe they're going to see it and be like, nah, that was wrong completely.
There's way more people that don't give a fuck. So like, to me, that makes the people that care like that much more valuable.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we got to tend to them, let them know how we're doing because they care. There's not a lot of people who care, at least not right now for me. So I try to make sure that those who do care, like, I let them know how I'm doing. I let them know that I'm trying.
There's almost 300,000 people that care, bro. And that's just Spotify. Going back to the anxiety aspect, it's very easy to allow anxiety to control your life, to rule everything that you do and let it be this thing that I'd rather not do certain things because I'd rather not have to deal with the anxiety. And sometimes that can affect the way that you view yourself. It can make you feel not worthy of certain things. And in your song Out the Way, you say, if you gonna slide, don't go out your way. And you're talking to people and letting them know, like, nah, like, just avoid it. Don't even bother.
Yeah.
What was it that instilled that feeling in you?
Definitely a time when I was from school, just into dropping out, being in rehab, living in my mom's house, like that feeling of like, bro, I can't invite nobody. Bro, I'm living in my mother's house. Like I'm in my childhood room. The walls are still painted black and yellow, Ghost Stillers. I still got a Troy Polamalu fat head on the wall. Like just that general feeling of like, I don't feel like I'm deserving of anybody else's attention. Like, so if you're going to slide, don't go out your way. Like, don't pop out if it's not necessary. I feel like I'm a mess. I've been moving too extra, pardon my mess.
So that feeling of not being worthy just stemmed from everything that was going on at that time?
Yeah, for sure, because I feel like I said off the rip, I feel like I've squandered so many opportunities and so many people who were invested in me that it's definitely a conscious thought on my mind now.
What were some of those opportunities you feel like you were the reason for them to go away?
I mean, going to school and having my parents invest in me for as long as they did. Like, if they had known that I was going to be a rapper, I didn't need to take out all these goddamn loans. Like, they didn't need to invest all this time. But, it took that amount of time for me to help figure out who I was. And it's a conscious feeling every day of like, bro, if I don't make this work, like, what was it all for? Who did they all pour into? Like, obviously they poured into the person, but what did they pour into legacy wise? So I think about it every day. It's definitely, like you said, a hyperfixation. But I haven't felt worthy in so long. So that's like just one of those things that I'm like, I strive for it every day. It's an unhealthy thing, but it's a motivating thing, Will I ever feel it? I don't know.
It's not like you knew you were going to be a rapper from day one.
I tried to convince myself I was everything else. And shout out to a calm woman by the name of Teresa Freiberger, my 11th grade English teacher who told me that I could write. She was like, yo, like you can actually write. Like you could do this. Like she didn't say for what or how. She was just like, you can write.
Mm.
That was it. And that was just kind of like the loose thought in the back of my mind was if I don't do any of these things that people tell me I can do or that I'm smart enough to do, I could always write. And, you know, she was correct.
So you keep mentioning this idea that you're not worthy. What is it you feel you're not worthy of?
I feel like people's attention and people's day to day, because I feel like I understand exactly how hard it is, right? Like like at the moment, like I woke up this morning and worked from like 5:36 to like 4 o'clock. So I know exactly how it is. I gotta wake up tomorrow at 5:30, go to work at 4 o'clock. You know what I mean? Because I'm trying to pursue it, and I don't want to have to be dependent on a deal and have to take somebody else's money to change my life. So I'm gonna change my life right now while I work on changing my life in the evenings. And I know that there's a lot of people who work 2 jobs trying to change their life in the morning and change their life in the evening. That don't have to pay me any type of mind. So I'm always grateful when they do, you know what I mean?
But the fact that people care enough and you're over here saying that you're not worthy, that has to come from somewhere deeper than just this idea of, I've messed up a couple times.
Feeling not worthy of something comes from like how much you also respect that, right? And like I told you, like I don't feel worthy of the fans' respect sometimes because there's so many people on the planet who have not a clue, not an idea. They don't even have like an inkling, a reason to care. So the people that do, I believe that they're so valuable. They're valuable to me.
Mm-hmm.
And in that vein, I feel like I'm not worthy of these people that I care so much about because they probably have so much going on their day to day that like the stuff that I'm going through, because that's really all that the music is, like I would 100% understand if they didn't care.
So what about outside of the fans? What about the relationships, the family, family, personal, significant others? Do you feel like you're not worthy of those relationships either?
For sure, in terms of like significant others, I've been trying to chill out on that just because I'm like, damn, like I got to work on myself. I got other things I'm pursuing. I don't really have the time to devote to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't feel like I'm worthy of somebody else's, time, attention, love in that aspect because I got so much other stuff going on. Like, you know how hard it is to be like 4th place behind like Spotify for artists and my distro account and my Chase account. And then you like, that's crazy. So I'm not trying to do that to anybody. But yeah, in terms of family, like I'm working to be worthy of that. I had my mother look at me and tell me I had to rebuild my trust with her. I had my father tell me the same thing. So it's a very tangible, conscious thing. It's real relationships every day. So I believe in that aspect of it. It's like we have to really work to build what we have with people and you can't let it crumble. And if you do, like you have to be attentive, like tend to the ivy.
You had both your parents tell you that you need to rebuild that trust with them before that relationship could be healed. Where did that place you mentally?
In a difficult place just because it's like, I'm looking at the people who built me up as a person. Fuck you mean I got to build up trust with you? Like, it's a hard concept, but also I was like a boy at that time. And I didn't understand how people who love me so much could be hurt by things that I did and things that I wasted and time that I wasted. So it put me in a difficult place. But at the end of the day, I would say consistency is like the remedy to all things. And I just had to be consistent in terms of showing them like, yo, if I'm going to fuck up, it's not going to be in your house. If I'm going to fuck up, it's not going to be detrimental to what you got going on. And I'm going to show you that I'm going to try and make something of myself, So, and I still try to do that every day. Let them know I'm doing good, keep that communication going, stuff like that.
Now, when we talk about self-sabotage, it's something that you've mentioned that you do a lot as well. You feel like you don't deserve to be happy. Do you feel like you've seen that in your relationship with your parents?
In terms of being happy with them, I think that it's more so I've seen kind of how distance helps. Distance makes the heart grow fonder, so to speak. So it's like kind of navigating relationships in that way. Like when I dropped out and, had to go to rehab, I was directly on top of them. I'm living in their house. I'm still a drug addict. Like I'm just upstairs now. So,
I'm just in a different room.
yeah, I'm much more present, and they had no idea that any of this was going on. I just had to come to Jesus moment in the sense of like, I got to call them and let them know what's going on. And they were completely green to the whole situation. So like they just have a drug addict living upstairs now. So it was a difficult situation. And in terms of like rebuilding that relationship, I've learned that as I pursue things, I can really sense their love for me and how often they check in. And, I'm grateful for that because I understand not everybody has that.
When I talk about this self-sabotage, I'm talking about the idea that you said that you're afraid to be happy almost.
Yeah.
You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think happiness is comfort, and comfort is like the end of growth. Right? Like if you're happy with your relationships, are you seeking better ones? Like if you're happy with where you're at numbers wise, are you seeking better numbers? Are you seeking a larger audience? You know what I mean? So I think that self-sabotage in terms of things is sometimes like I'm willing to burn it all down to see how quickly I can rebuild it.
You got a bar in there that says that too. Let me pull that up for you. In transport, you say, I would drop everything to make the bridges.
I would drop everything to make the bridges brighter when they burn. Yeah, that was a bar that was definitely inspired by how petty I am. It's like, dog, if we want to go there, we could take it there. Like, I will drop everything to make sure the bridge burn as bright as it can. And I don't know if I even feel that way now. But maybe that's just because I burnt so many bridges that I don't have no more bad paths to cross.
Why were you okay with letting all of these relationships fall apart at that time?
I think it was because I operated behind like the childlike mindset that if your friends don't support your music, then they don't support you as a person. Bro, some niggas just don't listen to rap. Like if I could go back and tell myself one thing, it's like, don't stop talking to that girl because she ain't like your little song. Don't stop talking to the homie because he didn't press retweet. Like, do you want friends or do you want fans out of this? Like, I don't know what to tell some people. It's like I understand exactly how hard it is when you put out one song and 10 people and 10 of them didn't give a fuck and you're throwing it to the ether. But like at the end of the day, like you can't end relationships because people don't support something that you believe you're pouring so much of yourself into, because that doesn't mean that they don't support you. And there's people that I wish I could apologize to this day that I'm like, yo, I didn't say I'm sorry to you. I didn't I stopped speaking to you. I didn't answer that text. I didn't pick up the phone when you called because you didn't support my last song. And I'm a petty person. So it's like I internalize it all. Like I said, my long-term memory, solid, like short-term, terrible. So it's like I remember little slights and things like that. And I try to do better about not holding it against people. But I definitely let some shit fade because I thought somebody didn't support me as a person because they didn't retweet a song that now 4 or 5 years removed, I'm like, that was terrible.
So why not rekindle these relationships knowing that you were in the wrong at that time?
Because like I said, I'm a petty person. What, you ain't want to rekindle it neither? You ain't reach out? Nah. I think it's also sometimes I get people move on. And, we all only have so much energy to put in, and I try to respect that about myself. Is sometimes like I can't rekindle these relationships, or I feel like I don't have the energy to. Could it benefit me? Yeah, but like I gotta write songs about something. Damn it!
It's important to just let some people be at peace too.
Yeah, because I understand fully that I'm not peace. Like at the moment, I'm not at peace. I don't pretend to be. So I don't want to put that on anybody that I don't have to. And, a lot of those people I'm blessed to see have like gone on to like lead beautiful lives and like have families and have things that they're passionate about. So like, I don't need to put the underground rap shit on them at the moment, and say, yo, sorry you didn't like this last song, but like I'm doing better now and the music's doing better. So like I'm here.
Check this one out.
Yeah, exactly. Nope, not gonna do it.
What did the aftermath of those bridges burning look like for you?
Being alone, you know what I mean? And You know, when you're alone, you could either sit and think about, you know, woe is me, or like, how do I get out of this? And sometimes I still feel like super alone. Like, I don't know if I'm still fully out of it. But like, yeah, burning a lot of bridges and like cutting people off and saying that you don't need people leads to being alone. It's like the most straightforward equation of all time. And we all need each other to succeed in my eyes now. But like, it took being straight up alone to be able to really understand that.
That being alone is hard, especially when you're still trying to figure yourself out, because now you're left with only your thoughts. Are you still afraid that if you allow yourself to be happy, you won't be able to put out this music?
It's definitely a thought for sure. Like, yeah, 100% all the time. But like, I don't know. Over the last like 2 weeks, we've been making some vibes. So like, yeah, I think I could do it if I'm happy. I've been like happier.
Damn, we're 2 weeks late, bro.
I know, right? This could have been a completely different interview. I could have been, down bad.
This could have been a completely different conversation. I asked that because, you know, there's been times where I've been afraid to allow myself to be happy. When I heard you talk about that self-sabotage shit, I'm like, oh, this is where we're going for sure. Because there were points where I knew I had the chance to just be like, yeah, let's go. Like, it's it. But I allowed myself to keep people at an arm's length reach because I was afraid, like, bro, this shit's called Sad Boy Radio. How am I going to be allowing myself to be happy when I'm supposed to be talking about sad shit with other sad ass people? And it doesn't even need to be that we're both sad, but allowing ourselves to still understand what struggle and what adversity looks like. And it's kind of hard to picture being able to talk about adversity when you're not in that place anymore.
Because it's all about being genuine, right? And I think that a lot of like the things that you're speaking about are like a topic of empathy, right? And like, how can you empathize truly with something if you're not, like, in my mind, in that place, have recently come from that place? If you're so far removed from feeling a certain way, like, how can you speak on it? You know what I mean? It's kind of like the people who, like, yeah, you came from a very like humble beginning, but now you've gotten to a certain point of wealth that you turn your nose down to people who are in the same position that you were X amount of years ago. It's like, I never want to be that person. I never want to be the person that achieves a certain level of success and then turns around and looks at, bro, I ain't never been sad. I ain't never been scared. I ain't never been anxious. It's like, dog, you know how many people you probably just like, and maybe you could say fuck them. But again, I've reached a point where I said, like, I can't keep saying fuck everybody. Maybe you could say fuck everybody. But to me, I just don't think it's beneficial to anybody to say that you haven't been there.
At what point do you feel like that's something that we just got to let go of?
When we truly find it, you know, and only we'll know. I just don't think that it's something to like actively like press yourself about, you know, because it'll end up killing you over time. Because the question of what is happy or what is sad always outweighs, have I found it?
So another bar I took from you from Transport, I fuck with the whole project.
I appreciate that.
Transport was probably my favorite. The other bar I took from it was I would pop anything to make me feel like I deserve this. What was it you were referencing at this point?
Xanax. I miss Xanax so much, goddamn it. Can't do it though. Yeah, I just wish that there was something that made me felt like I deserved the stuff that's coming to me. Because like I said, bro, I've come up around so many talented people that were comfortable with different levels of success that it's like, to have, like you said, X amount of people listen to the music is like, bro, I would take anything. I would do anything to feel like I was deserving of what I have now. 2 years ago, you meet me and like the biggest concern on my mind was being able to smoke on probation. How am I going to be able to do that?
Do you think this was all due to like imposter syndrome, or what do you think it was that truly made it feel like nobody should be listening to me? I don't deserve this at all.
I don't know though. What's imposter syndrome to a dude who won't tell you his name? Right?
Well, what's up with that?
It started as I would go around and try and introduce myself to people. Hello, my name is. And then someone would come up and say, oh, you met J-Mack. And now I'm the nigga with an alias. And you know how hard it is to just go up to introduce yourself to people and they think you're just speaking in code or introducing yourself under like a different like. So the Instagram handle for the longest was Mynameisntjmack. Even when I made music as like .jmack was Mynameisntjmack. So it was a natural switch, but it was always an identity and perception crisis, right? Because it's like J-Mac to me was the dude that was just outside fucking up. And there definitely came a point in time, like a reckoning of like, am I that person?
Now, another thing that you've said previously is we all deal with shit. I'm just another hurt person.
Nigga, I said that?
Yeah.
Damn.
You were a real sad boy in 2023.
Yeah, bro.
Who hurt you?
Myself. Which is way worse, I feel like, than anybody else. But before that, it's just like relationships, you know? Much respect to them, to her. Like, it's nobody hurt me except for me. People have affected me, but the only person that hurt me has been me.
Why do you feel like you were so self-destructive?
I think that it was because I wasn't sure of like where I was going. You know what I mean? So it's like when you're not sure of like what path to follow, you burn the bridge, right? You're like, I'm not going down that one. Fuck it. I'm not going down that one. Like, and it eventually led to a place, like I said, where I was alone and I didn't have anywhere to go except for back home. And I was afraid of where to go next. And it hit at a time where it's like I went to rehab like right before the pandemic. By the time I got done with outpatient, so for those who don't know, inpatient, staying in the rehab facility for like 4 or 5 weeks. And then outpatient, where I would get to go home, but I would have to drive 35 minutes to Virginia Beach and go to the facility and sit there from like 8 to like 4, 5, drive back. So, yeah, it was just one of those things where I didn't feel like I was worthy of so much. And all of this hit at a specific time where, like, even if I tried to get better, bro, I was in the house. Like, we couldn't go nowhere with the pandemic. Like, I immediately fucked up right after. Because it's like, okay, cool, I'm done with rehab. Like, stay in your crib. Here's $400 from the government. I don't know about you, but give a nigga like me $400 from the government, we're going to make something shake. Like, so I just immediately started fucking up again.
Do you feel like because you didn't understand your past and because you were going through all of this, you had placed expectations onto other people that they needed to understand what you were going through?
Oh, most certainly. Most certainly. There's people that I looked at and I wish I could apologize to this day where I'm just like, you didn't know what I was going through. You didn't know that because I ain't reach out to you that I was fucked up. You ain't know that I had gotten arrested. You ain't know that I was in rehab. Like, where have you been?
Is that where scars comes from?
Scars comes from the fact that my family wasn't necessarily really communicative. And the fact that there's still scars on family of mine that I don't know where they came from. And we haven't necessarily talked about it. You know, and it's like, you hate running fingers over scars and I could hardly see them in your face. So we all got things that we don't talk about. And we all have things that we wish the people, that we don't want to burden the people that we love with. You know, so it's like there's scars on my father that it's like, just don't ask. It happened. Same thing with my mother. It's like, don't ask, it happened. It's scars on me. Don't ask, it happened. You know, so that's kind of the motif, I guess, behind that. It's just like we all have things we don't talk about.
Do you think that there will ever be a point where you're able to open up about all of that?
Nah, because I feel like I do it progressively through the music. And when I don't make music anymore, I'll just implode and be okay with that.
You'll just crash out?
Yeah.
Man, this whole trip we've been talking about crashing out. It really be like that out here, man.
It is the easiest place to crash out in the world just because it's like there's so much opportunity, but there's also like the cost of things. The fact that there's so much opportunity doesn't mean that all of them are good. I would argue that a majority of them probably don't serve you. You know what I mean? So like it's an easy place to crash out in for sure. Especially like if you're not from here, bro. Like I'm a big believer in like let LA for the people, be for the people from LA.
What do you feel like you've learned about yourself so far out here in LA?
That I'm not as self-sustaining as I thought I was. I had to lean on people, really find a sense of community. And also that I really care about all of this, you know what I mean? Because I wouldn't live out here, bro. I wouldn't be paying rent. I wouldn't, go through what I go through on a daily basis out here for no reason.
I don't know, man. I've thought about moving out here constantly, multiple times. After being here, I don't know. Maybe it's just because of where we stayed.
I don't know, man. LA's so big. You feel me? I miss my small town in rural Virginia.
How did that small town help shape you?
Respect, telling people, yes, sir, no, ma'am. Being like just kind in daily interactions, kind of the pace in which I move, the pace in which I talk. Like, it happens frequently out here, but I feel like I just talk like so slow and so quiet that like sometimes I'll be having a full-on conversation with somebody and they'll just start talking about something else. I'm like, damn, I could have sworn I was in the middle of a point right there. But it's like that never happened in the South. But I mean, to each their own.
So through these songs, through your music, you've told your story. You've explained to people the ways that you felt not feeling worthy, dealing with anxiety, addiction. Why do you feel like it was so important for you to tell these stories?
I feel like it's really self-important, or like, what's the word? Self-aggrandizing, maybe. To say like I started out with like a mission of like telling these stories. You know what I mean? I was just genuinely expressing myself. Like the first project that I put on streaming services was definitely because I got cheated on. It was just like over like much respect to Shiloh Dynasty. Like Shiloh Dynasty, like XXX Tentacion, like late stage 17 type beats. And then it just transitioned into like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And now I'm in rehab. And then it transitioned into like, first it transitioned into like a type of person that I was at the time. And then like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And then the Lords of Sounds and Lesser Things of like, bro, I feel like I hear these voices and there's so many of these like quote unquote lesser things like that I feel like I have control over, but no control over. And then Bookmark of like, this is the stopping point. Like, where do we go from here? And now we got the next project on the way. I almost just fucked up and said the name.
So talk about Bookmark and the overall significance a little bit. What was the significance of the name?
Bookmark to me is one of those things where it's like I was always an avid reader, right? And I was always a kid that struggled, like where I never had a bookmark. All of my books got folded pages of like where I was. And a lot of these songs feel like folded page type bookmarks of like where I was at in the chapter. And they're never really standard like bookmarks of marking a definitive place. They're all just like maybe I was here, maybe I was there. And that's what the songs feel like, right? Like just different emotions and different like emotional states in a certain period of time, a certain part of the book where I may or may not have been. So that's what the bookmark is to me. It's like a stopping point of like, I made music for X amount of time and then felt like I went through this drastic improvement and like taking it seriously and really getting better. And Bookmark it. Like those are all of the songs that got cut from this project that's about to drop.
What do you think was the most important story you told on that project?
I would say it's easy to say that it's Leak in terms of like that really displays just the mental state as a whole, like that manic excitement to like manic depressive. Like I can't escape this. Like I've messed up relationships. I've messed up this, that, and the third. But really to me, I would say that it's scars are out the way, feeling like you haven't spoken enough to those around you in terms of scars and like there's things that we all don't talk about or out the way in terms of not feeling worth it. You know what I mean? Because I feel like those are the stories that relate to the most people, but I understand how like Leak gravitated to people.
Do you feel like you've been able to leave a lot of that behind so far?
What, in terms of those stories?
The feelings that you were feeling at that time.
I don't know if feelings ever change. They just kind of grow with us, right? Like, I don't think I'll ever not be an anxious person. Maybe I just see it differently. Maybe we come to terms over time. You know, maybe depression stops being this thing that immobilizes me and becomes a thing that I'm keenly aware of over time. hopefully. Maybe my anger isn't something that I let get out of control, and maybe I can identify it as one of anxiety or depression. You know what I mean? I just think that those feelings as a whole, like they'll never really change. But maybe that's also my defeatist like type of mindset of like, will I ever get better? You know? But like I think a lot of those stories are me. You know what I mean? Like, fuck, what's the intro of that goddamn project? Is it Numbers and Shit with Tommy?
Think so.
Yeah, it's like that. I made that project. I'll always be kind of concerned about like the numbers and like how we started. Like, do the numbers mean anything? And then it's like out the way. It's like I'll always be concerned of whether or not I'm worth it. And am I continually improving myself to be at a point where I'm worth it to people? Like Leak, I feel like I'll always go through those different mindset changes and transport, like, and walk around. Like, there's always issues again that we don't talk about, or like bridges that might have to be burned, scars. Like, there's always people that I wish I could talk to more.
So what can we expect from the next project?
General improvement, bro. I swear to God, I've been rapping my ass off over the past 2 years in terms of like getting better. Like, I would say the only song that stands up in terms of like rapping against the next project would be Leak. I think that like 1 through however many songs it ends up being, it is done now though. It's all better in terms of rapping, in terms of musicality. Like I said, this is all like a culmination of me and the people that I work with getting better over the course of 2.5 years. So people are really about to hear the same group of people. Like if y'all like Bookmark, those are all songs that over 2.5 years got cut from this project. So now it's like we've all continually gotten better. And I think that it's gonna sound better in terms of the music. I think that the rapping's better. I think the content is more focused in terms of just talking to people about like the journey and like the mind states that I go through. And I think we're really crafting a world. Like, what is this world in terms of vulnerability and perception and identity?
Would you say that you're getting better as far as your craft, or better mentally, better as a person?
Nah, I think I'm just getting better at my craft. Working hard.
Hey, shit, I hope you get better as a person, bro. I hope you get better at mentally. I think that's what's the most important part of all of this.
I think better is relative, right? Because you kind of have to have like a baseline of like what is average, what's better than average.
Mm-hmm.
How's the average person doing right now?
Shit.
Probably not great.
Sad boys for real.
Exactly. So it's like I'd like to think that, you know, because I'm doing something that I'm passionate about, maybe I'm doing better than the average person.
Well, man, I appreciate you sitting down with us.
Of
I
course.
appreciate you taking your time because I know you work early as fuck.
Yeah.
Go ahead and plug whatever you got to plug real quick.
Like I said, my name is Mynameisntjmack. I'm a rapper, but I'm one of everybody. You feel me? And I have a project coming out soon that I hope people take the time to listen to. It's going to be my best work yet. And it features a lot of people that I'm proud to say I got the chance to work with, as well as some people that I've always worked with, you know. So pop out, listen to the project, and it's going to be better than a lot of the hip hop projects you've heard this year, if not all of them.
Man, make sure you guys go ahead, check out Mynameisntjmack. That's going to go ahead and wrap our first tour over at Los Angeles. Make sure you guys go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe. Sad Boys for real. Peace out.
This is Sad Boy Radio.
The one last thing I wanted to add, I wanted to touch on before we close out. A lot of this project is also talking about relationships and the weight that we put on them.
For sure.
Why have you allowed relationships to influence you so much and to impact your life as much as they have?
I don't know. I feel like I've always been not necessarily like a people pleaser, but I've always been worried about how people perceive me and how I make other people feel. You know, it's like I always felt bad if I made someone like feel bad about themselves, and I ain't need to do all that. So it's just kind of progressed into burning bridges and realizing that fact again, like from when I was a kid. Like I don't like that feeling. And I've just kind of reached a point where I feel like all we are is amalgamations of the people that we come across and the people that we affect and touch on a day-to-day basis, you know. So the more people that I can help, the more people that I can influence, the more people that I can help feel better about themselves, or at least like reach a common ground, right? Like an understanding.
In what ways have you seen those relationships change the person that you've been?
I mean, so many people have invested in me, poured into me, that it's like it'd be a whole nother hour if I could thank everybody. But most recently, I would say it's been people that genuinely believe in the music and believe in, you know, the person behind it and the work ethic behind it.